Hey YouTube land, this is Ty Counters doing another action figure review, and today I'm doing a review of the Cobra Hiss tank. This is the GiJoe 2020 retro line version of the Cobra Hiss. It includes the Hiss driver, and this is the box it comes in. So I think this is the first time I've ever gotten a boxed version of the classic style Hiss. I do have a lot of Hiss tanks, but most notably all the ones I've ever gotten have been unboxed and loose. The only exceptions to that are the more modern style ones, like the Retaliation one I got boxed, and the which is the Pursuit of Cobra version with the rubber treads. That's the only other version I've gotten boxed, but this is the first time I've actually gotten a classic style, vintage style box art one. So before I go on, I just need to say that these reviews are intended for collectors over the age of 13 years old. If you're below that, you need to ask permission to watch any toy reviews that would be deemed action figures. But for these purposes, for all intents and purposes, my videos are intended for collectors over the age of 13 years old. Just to abide by the COPA and FTC rules, because sometimes people tend to curse. So, top of the box, you got Cobra the Enemy, Cobra Hiss, GiJoe logo. Now, I know people have been a bit moaning about the Cobra GiJoe logo because it doesn't have the classic A Real American Hero underneath it, but that's not the way I seen the logo before over here. The way the logo is for me is pretty much how it is on this box. In fact, when I was growing up, we didn't actually have GiJoe because I live in Ireland. We had Action Force, so any of the stuff we would have had over here would have had an Action Force logo on it instead of GiJoe. And I had International Heroes, I think, on it instead of A Real American Hero. So here is an image of what you get in the box. So you have the tank, the driver, you have his file card on the back. So quickly going through it, it's multilingual, so it's fairly simple. Role, driver, primary specialty, Hiss driver, secondary specialty, mechanical and electrical systems, birthplace various countries. Cobra Hiss drivers are selected from the best and the most evil of Cobra Command's thousands of yearly recruits. So fairly straightforward, fairly simple, and then it's just repeated in several languages on the same card. I'm not sure if there's an American versions of these cards without the multilingual, and they're more styled like the classic ones, but this is the one I got. So moving on, here is the pièce de résistance, which is the Hiss tank itself. Now, I do have a modern Cobra Trooper up here, just so you can see how they fit. This is one of the 50th Pursuit of Cobra ones. I didn't get any of the 50th anniversary ones with the kind of gold logo on that side, but you can see they fit quite nicely on it. There is assembly required when you get this, so I will start that off. The canopy here is separate. Let me pull the old driver out as well. We'll have a look at him in a little bit. The canopy is separate when you get it. The main body and the tracks are separate when you get it, and the gun emplacement is separate when you get it. So the way the gun goes, there's 3 indents, and you line the indents up, and you just rotate it around, and it fits into place. Similar with the canopy. Canopy just slots in and plugs into place. Now I can't take apart this because when it clicked into place, I don't think it's designed to come apart. So there is that, and then there is sticker emplacement. I was going to do an unboxing video for this, but I got super excited when I got it and I put it together, so there is that. However, just before I go on with the review, I do also have the new All Striker, and it's still in the box, so I think I will try and do a unboxing video, so an unboxing and assembly video. So be aware and keep eyes peeled for that if you're interested. I will try and do one. It will probably be a long video than I normally do, so just be wary. you might want to put a cup of tea on or something. So the HISS tank itself is pretty straightforward. Now I do have the vintage classic HISS tank to compare it to. This one has seen slightly better days. The stickers are sort of bubbled on mine, but if I pull it up, I'm not sure if you can see that on screen, but it says Hasbro Inc. Pawtucket, Rhode Island, 1983 as the date stamp. If I do the same for this one, it has Made in China, Hasbro, 2004. Now the reason it says 2004 in this one and doesn't say 2020 is because this is a reuse of the 25th anniversary one that was released. Actually, it wasn't even released in 2004 because the 25th anniversary line didn't come around until 2008. This was reissued for when they did the Spy Troops line. So this mold has been around since the Spy Troops line. As you can see, it is pretty much an identical molding of the tank. The only difference is being the foot pegs on the back are smaller because they're designed to incorporate the modern figures. The modern figures had smaller foot pegs than the classic one. Just in case you're wondering why, you can just about make out a driver in this one. This is one of my custom figures that I did using a movie Baroness to make a couple of female Cobra agents. That's why she's kind of painted probably terrible and just sits in a tank and you can't really make her out. Now, as I said, I've never gotten the original one of these. Also, the guns on my one is fairly floppy. I've never gotten an original one, so I'm not sure how it was for when you got assembly or when you put it together. It could have come the exact same way, or it could have come pre-built. I'm not too sure. A lot of some of the earlier stuff I think was pre-built, so there is that. But pretty much side for side, this thing, the modern one, is pretty much a complete reuse of classic to nearly modern molding. And even though some companies have kind of redone their classic figures, like just for example Mattel have redone the Massive Universe line, and some of the figures have their details are kind of soft. You'll see people saying that their detailings aren't as sharp as the original things that they're based on. This one doesn't seem to have that trouble. I think the details on this is pretty much on par with the original tank from back in the 80s. Now there is sticker placement. I used the option or the little included pamphlet that comes with it. It has the little blueprint and it shows you where the stickers go. Also, if you're wondering why I have marks on my hand, I have been painting my McFarlane Space Marine, so I have some paint on my hands while I've been painting it. Anyway, that's beside the point. So you have these stickers. These are the worst ones to get on. I probably should have put them on before I clipped the tracks into place. Just something to note. You have these here. I've seen people stick them up here on the instructions to show to put it down here. There's a sticker here, the sticker here, the big 788 symbol, this one here, one on the back, and the final one goes up here. There is no stickers in the cockpit, but it is a nicely detailed cockpit. You can see if I just flip around so you can actually see. So you can see there is detailing in the cockpit, there is a seat. And overall, it is quite a nice, done vehicle. Now, I'm just going to bring in another HISS tank for comparison. This is another one of the 2000s, early 2000s one. This is one of my somewhat favorite designs. I know a lot of people hated this one, but I thought it was an interesting upgrade because it gave you the option of troop transport at the back. Still had kind of guns. Fortunately, it's a bit cobwebby. It did have a gimmick where if you extend this out, press that up, the head would extend and there's buttons on either side. Unfortunately, all of mine are missing the two missiles that go here, and the cockpit is quite nice, roomy and detailed. So I know some people, as I said, some people don't like this version of the HISS tank. I always like it. So, and it was one of the sound effects things, so if you put a gun in and press the buttons, there were sound effects as well as electronic. that's just a comparison. And onto the figure himself. Now, this guy is pretty sweet. Unfortunately, I do not have an original O-ring figure to compare him with. However, I do have the previous 25th anniversary version. This is the first version, the first kind of modern era version of him. So you can see he was actually a reuse of a lot of parts from the GiJoe figures from, I think it was Grand Slam. He used the top body part of Grand Slam, and then they gave him new legs and a new head. But overall, he was a reuse. This guy is pretty much a new figure, as far as I can tell, with some slight reuses. The upper shoulders here were shock troopers. Sorry, the Cobra shock troopers. The waist, as far as I can see, the waist and under the armor seems to be I think this is a reuse of the Cobra, the Retaliation Cobra Trooper body. The head is new. The lower arms are new. At first, when I saw the prototypes, I thought this guy had the hinges in the wrists, but he doesn't. He just has basic swivels. So he's a bit more like his original counterpart. And the lower legs, all the legs from the top to the bottom are completely new. I don't even think, I thought they might have reused the same lower legs, but they didn't. They're completely new lower legs. And I do have another version of the Hiss Driver. I just get him out and get him to stand. This is the Pursuit of Cobra one, which came with the more modern version of the tank. And we'll just get one more Hiss Driver out because I have him handy. There was the Hiss Driver character figure. He was released, I want to say, during the 2000s, early 2000s, like 2001 to 2010. I could be wrong on this, but he was released in these sort of colors. There was an O-ring version of this guy. Again, unfortunately, I don't have the O-ring version. His character name was called Rip It. He apparently, I'm not too familiar with the character, where his origins came from. He possibly might have been a comic book created character, and then they decided to do a figure for him, or he could have been just based solely on the comic or on the action figure line, and they just did him as a kind of a slight upgrade to a basic Hiss Driver. But there was this guy. I have a few versions of this guy in this color. I just use him as a standard Hiss Driver, but overall this guy is quite nice. He does come with one accessory, and that one accessory is this, which is a basic 25th anniversary style base. What's interesting to me though is it says Cobra Trooper on it and not Hiss Driver. I'm almost certain the one that came with this guy and the one that came with this guy actually say Hiss Driver on it. They don't actually say Cobra Trooper, or it just says Cobra Driver, I think. But unfortunately, I can't find any of mine at the moment. Someone out there in the comments might feel free to drop a comment to say if their one says Hiss Driver on the 25th anniversary one. I know all the ones for the retro line says Cobra Trooper, and he does have peg holes on the bottom of his feet, so he does stand on it quite nicely. And for articulation of the figure, he has the standard kind of modern style articulation, so head is on a ball joint, can rotate it all the way around. Doesn't really have any up and down to it, and he has quite a nicely sculpted head. His arms are on ball joints, so he can go up that much, rotate 360. He has a single jointed elbow and has a swivel. As I previously mentioned, it's just a swivel on the wrist. He doesn't have that whatchamacallit, the hinge. He has a upper joint or a diaphragm joint. He doesn't have an actual waist joint. He can do the splits that much. He can kick forward that much. He can kick back a small bit. He's kind of legs splay out a small bit if you kick back. He has dual jointed knees, so you can do pretty much nearly a 180 on his leg. He has a swivel in the ankle and ankle articulation. Now it is hindered a small bit because of the ribbing on his boots. but you can still get some good poses out of him. Unfortunately, he doesn't have any guns, but I'll just grab a random gun. This is one of the ones that came with the retro line Baroness, so you can hold pretty much standard guns from the G.I. Joe line. Doesn't look too bad with this machine pistol, so it is a shame he didn't come with a pistol. The original one did. In fact, my one has, one of them has their pistol on it. The original one came with this just standard, I don't know, what would you call it, a 9mm pistol? Possibly. It looks like a Beretta or something along those lines. And he should, in theory, I'd have to move his thumb a bit. Actually, his thumb is part of the sculpt, so you can't put it, trigger finger through the... He can't put his trigger finger through the actual trigger guard. So he can hold the pistol that the original guy came with, but not great. If you have one of the guns like the Baroness one, which doesn't actually have a handle guard, it looks a little bit better on it. It looks a bit more natural. So there you go. Overall, I really like this tank. Well, I'm a huge fan of the Hiss tank anyway. The reason I got this set is for the new version of the Hiss driver, and this is a really cool version. I do hope they might release them single carded, hopefully. They did that with I think they did that with this version. They released him on his own. But his armor is, I'm not sure if it's removable. It seems to be very much stuck in place, but it is a separate piece, so I'm not sure. You could potentially remove it, but I don't want to try it on camera in case I break it. But it's very nicely done and very, very nicely sculpted. And he sits quite comfortably in the Hiss tank. As you can see, unlike his previous counterpart, he could sit not too bad in the Hiss tank, but because of this super bulky pistol holder, it was a bit of a pain to get him into certain versions of the Hiss tank. This one he was not too bad on, and some of the more modern ones, but the classic one they used to have trouble fitting in properly. But overall, it's a really cool vehicle. I know I waffled on a good bit. So hopefully you enjoy this review and this in-depth kind of look at the Hiss tank. I do recommend picking it up if you can. If you're just a fan for the figure, then people might be selling it. Some of the more classic, die-hard O-ring fans might just get the tank for the tank and sell the figure separately. So keep an eye to stuff like eBay. You might luck out and get the figure on his own for cheaper. But then again, some people tend to sell the figure for nearly the same price the whole tank set goes for, so there is that. I managed to get this locally, and now when I say locally, it's a comic store within Ireland, but it was a good bit away, so they had to post it to me. But I got that and the Awestriker together, and as I said, I'm going to try and do an unboxing and assembly of the Awestriker if you have the patience to watch it, and hopefully you will enjoy it. But I do hope you enjoyed this video review for the Hiss tank, and I hope I didn't waffle on too much. And as I say in my videos, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe to my channel. Cheers guys.